speaking of, let me roast you about tell you about that one time. And let me tell you about your dirty spaghetti
your
ain't
people roast
shit.
you.
Your dirty spaghetti ain't good. It ain't shit. It's trash. You think you can cook and you can't cook.
I was like, well, my family history, my God, a comedian would have a field day talking about the folks in my family. Like, nah, I ain't got it in me like that.
Jemele, do you have things like, do you have water? Do you have your coffee, your McDonald's coffee?
You know, I have my huge. This, I don't know what they do with this. It's the McDonald's on Slauson. My goodness, they put their foot in a macchiato.
You know what that's called?
What is that called?
Cancer.
Are you about to ruin something for me?
Yeah.
I feel like you are. You just had hater energy.
Yeah, because I'm all like, the one on Slauson says no one. You know what they put in? You know, never ever heard in the history of coffee languages, the best macchiato is at McDonald's. Never ever heard. Never heard.
McDonald's, when they created the McCafe menu.
Oh, Lord.
All right.
Lord.
Look at me trying to get us this sponsorship. I'm trying to lift us up out the projects, Cari. You just won't let me. See what I'm saying? I'm like, we need that McDonald's sponsorship. But no, in all seriousness, it's like I keep telling you the coffee is legit.
You don't bring me a macchiato. You bring me the 99-cent basic coffee.
Because that's what I thought you wanted.
No, I want to try a macchiato.
Okay.
What's in it? What's in it besides a half a pound of sugar? What else is in it?
Oh, so then here we go. If you want it to be healthy, don't even bother.
Don't do it?
So, don't do it. Stick with your coffee and your little bit of cream and the no sugars, drinking coffee like a serial killer, but that's okay.
No, a serial killer would just drink the coffee just black.
You're right. You're right about that. And look, don't get all testy with me because your Lakers got swept. Because I know where this energy is coming from. The only reason you testy right now is because the Lakers got broomed up out of here. So I'm sorry.
Did you see Dylan Brooks up under the basket just smiling away?
When your biggest hater comes to the game when you get swept, Dylan Brooks is a diabolical man.
He is a hater. I'm waiting for somebody to punch him dead in his mouth. You remember how Chris Rock got slapped and there was a forewarning before? Like, they were like, I'm surprised no one slaps him. And then here we go.
Yeah. Well, he's also a large individual. So
somebody gonna get him. Somebody, the equivalent. Someone he gonna pick the right one who has the time. It always works that way eventually. But anyway, whatever. Good for you, Dylan.
How you feeling, though? Do you think this was LeBron's last game?
I'm hearing that it's LeBron's last game. That's what people are talking and reporting. I don't know if that's true. That's, the internet is full of lies. I have a hard time believing he's going to walk away, but he does need some help. He needs some assistance.
Okay.
As Chuck was trying to have this conversation the other day with Draymond, it is a young man's game. And so he needs a little bit of assistance. So I hope that if he decided to retire, it would be clean. It would be a clean walk away. No one would be like, oh, you failed. Like, it is good. I don't think, we can't get inside his head, but I don't know how he's going to be able to let it go completely. I just don't see him ready to turn it over. You know what I mean?
But as a Laker fan, though, do you want or wouldn't you want
He's doing the Olympics. I think he's done after Olympics. What do you think? Olympics here at home.
I can see that.
I could see him just giving us that much more time. Like, after Olympics, it's a wrap for me. I could just see it because it's home. It's at the home side.
That makes sense. Well, I was going to say, as a Laker fan, though, don't you want him to have sort of the ceremonial ending that Kobe had when he walked away?
Yeah, he didn't do a world tour. He needs to do a world tour. He can't just walk away. That's why I have a hard time believing he's going to do a goodbye. You know what I mean? Like, thank you so much. We appreciate you. The way every arena acknowledged Kobe, this will be the same for LeBron. You have to. He is the GOAT of our generation, and it's just time to acknowledge what he has done. So I agree. The Lakers weren't going to win. We knew that. We just don't have enough. And it is, we feel as if we're entitled and in the conversation all the time. LeBron just don't have it. He used to be able to. Do you remember, if it was just yesterday, he could will people into a championship or in the finals, which is 2020. It wasn't that long ago. 2020, the COVID year. And I feel like, that was a great feat in itself. Every organization he's been with, he's brought a chip to. And who can say that they've done that? Every single organization. It's not one miss for him. There's so many firsts, so many things that he's been able to do. I think at the end of the day, though, even if he didn't do a farewell tour, his legacy is defined by what he has done off the court. We give him a hard time because people like say he's corny and he's Hollywood and he's selfish and he's all these things. But what LeBron has done in terms of creating a blueprint for these players to become entrepreneurs off of the court is really special. Everyone created a media house. Everyone said, okay, and he isn't the death of teaming up because they've done it before, but there was something special in the way in which he did it, keeping a crew around him that wanted to build. He's more than prepared for afterlife, right? He's not going to say, you know. So, and I think that we ought to acknowledge that he has made it so in vogue in a way that these athletes are now fully realize it's not just someone who just shuts up and dribbles. They understand that there's more to it than just being a good basketball player in ways in which, you know, athletes of yesteryear didn't know. You don't have to do TV to still stay relevant. I doubt if he might dabble in some TV, but the kind of TV I think LeBron's going to do, I think he's going to go and do movies.
I was just thinking that. I think he's going to make the acting turn.
He's really going to be an actor.
Yeah,
and a big one.
He's going to go into entertainment.
It's going to be a big one. Anyway, with that being said, what's going on with your stank ass Detroit Pistons?
Well, I gotta be, you know,
because I'm being a hater.
You are being a hater, and I granted we won't get broomed, but Donovan Mitchell really disrespected us last night. He disrespected the entire city of Detroit because we could not stop this dude, and he was murdering us. So the series is now tied at 2 apiece. It heads back to Detroit. I know Game 5 is about to be crazy in the city of Detroit. So I thought this series would go 7. And, you know, right now we didn't look like the same team in Cleveland that we did in Detroit, which is not surprising, especially
Coco looked good.
Coco looked amazing. And so just for this series, I'm going to have to dislike Coco Jones because her man is just disrespecting her. She's a lovely person. She is a lovely person. She looks lovely. And so, you know, I still expect us to win in 7. Mm-hmm. But, man, Jalen Duren, he has got to play better. He has been really disappointing in these playoffs. He was an all-star. I know. And so, like, I'm trying to keep that in mind. This is part of the growth that happens as a young player. He was an all-star for the first time this season. He was one of the most improved players in the league. But I'm glad for his maturation that he is getting a taste of how he needs to take his game to the next level. But, hey, timing is everything. And this summer, the discussion is going to be starting about giving him a max contract. And I don't think they can do that. They can't. Looking at how the money will work out, given the core of the team. Yeah. But this was a bad time for him to have a bad series. I'll just say that from a money standpoint.
Well,
but
the series isn't over, Jemele. There's still time.
I said we win in 7. I didn't say we weren't going to win the series, but we just got smoked last night. So that was what I was doing mostly yesterday, is watching the Pistons get their ass beat on national TV. And that followed the Lakers, you know, that preceded the Lakers getting their ass whooped, because I'm going to bring it back to you and getting up on out of the playoffs.
Speaking of getting their ass whooped, I'm on my way over there because you're talking all this trash right now.
I'm not talking trash.
Meet me outside. Meet me on the corner of Slauson and La Brea.
Come outside. You just want to talk.
Come outside. I just want to talk. I want to talk to you. I don't want nothing. I just want to ask you what you're doing. I just knocked on the door. Can you come outside? Just meet us out here.
Just meet us off the porch. Just a couple things.
Just a couple of things. Meet us off the porch.
Cari, you said something a moment ago about LeBron when you were talking about how, you know, a lot of people have these, you know, they kind of have these judgments about him being too Hollywood, him being too this, too that. The fact is, when you're the face of the league, or one of the faces, he is the face of the league. He's not one of the faces. It's him for sure. That people are never going to be happy with how you behave. And but for Monday's episode, we started our conversation about Caitlin Clark, and we didn't get a chance to finish it. And I thought you were getting into something really interesting when you talked about, and we actually started this conversation, let me be clear, before that, when we talked about the WNBA GM survey, and it looked like, at least among the eyes of the league and the GMs, that she has been sort of taken down a notch.
Caitlin
Clark has been taken down a notch, if you will. Like, she wasn't leading the polls in that particular poll in the categories that she did just the year prior. And there seems to be this tide turning, that you notice this shift in her. And so a shift in terms of how people are perceiving her. And then the Morgan Wallen thing happens where she walks out with him for his concert after Indiana loses to Dallas. People are still having think piece debates on social media about it. And so I wanted to make sure that we got back to that conversation because it was a lot that we left on the table. But much like we've seen with LeBron, where people who manage to say nothing and be polarizing, Caitlin Clark is in that space. Like she could buy a pack of Trident gum from the store and it's going to be people saying like, why did she buy that color? Like she has reached that point where nothing she does is going to go not just unnoticed, but everything is going to be an indictment on who she is as a person. And so, I just wanted to make sure that we picked up that conversation that we were having about her because I know there was a lot we didn't get a chance to really express.
I when we have this conversation, these are conversations I like to have, but I'm scrolling on social today and I'm gonna take a break from social media, but everybody has an opinion and a ring light. I'm like, turn your ring light off and your opinions. I don't want to hear this shit no more. I'm so sick and tired of everybody screaming about what is wrong with her or what's wrong with LeBron and then I find us having these, and I'm gonna keep it a buck, we're having these conversations and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but I would like to have a nice nuanced conversation. Give it up for nuance. I don't know if they do it anymore. I don't know if it still exists in the universe. Everyone has to say something that is more profound or outrageous because we're in the outrageous Olympics. But the thing is this, and the reason why I'm going to say this about Caitlin Clark is that if we really want to have conversations, because you've said this on the show, the media has done itself a disservice by not really covering the league, the W, the way they should cover it. And there is a level of sensitivity and care. And that just comes with being a woman, period. No matter whom you are, what you are. We're going to get into the Kevin Hart roast later. But you notice how people only felt comfortable going after certain female comedians, only certain ones. Regina Hall, they were like, we'll star you out. There was a lot of people who did. I don't really know much about her. I don't want to say. There is a sensitivity level when covering women, talking about women that I think we all, as women and other analysts, bring to the conversation. And the thing is this, much like LeBron, people don't like LeBron's personality. They don't like his style. You mentioned that. We can say that without even blinking. We can criticize LeBron without thinking twice. We're just like, that's what comes with the territory. You're a GOAT. Same thing with Kobe. Same thing with, no, I can't say same thing with Jordan because I wasn't covering Jordan.
And it was a different media age too.
A different media age. People were trying to be his best friend.
But people were critical because they were definitely, yes. But it was different because he went through that early in his career.
Because everybody didn't have an opinion in a ring light.
Yes,
and everybody didn't feel the need to be, you didn't know the difference between an influencer, a journalist, and an insider. They're all blurring the lines, and an analyst. Everyone has something to say, and there's no real discourse in terms of what you're allowed to say or what you should say or what lane you should live in. Because I guess they all blend. Let the world tell you. Here's the thing with Caitlin Clark. We now know that entering her third year in the W, we know her now. We're able to look at her and objectively say one or two things, maybe more about her game. But we also are knowing her personality and we see how she interacts and we're starting to see more of it. Her first year, you guys may remember, she was quiet. Like, peep. Didn't really want to say much. She talked when she did talk. She said what she thought she had to say. But in terms of who she was, we really didn't know. I felt like, okay, well, we'll see. I thought when covering her in college, when that whole Angel Reese stuff went down, I was like, oh, well, when I was like, well, she talking shit too. So why is everybody getting on Angel Reese? She got a mouth too. She trash talks too. This is the rite of passage. You should be able to trash talk. That was my take. You should be able to trash talk. That is my take. The more I watch her, I have decided it's her personality that I'm not fond of. And that is okay. I have decided that she is a bit of a whiner. And that too is honestly my take, my choice, my words. And that is also okay. When she called someone a flopping all the time, what did she say about old girl?
Isaiah James. She was like, with your flopping ass or something.
With your flopping ass, you're always flopping. Yeah. And she proceeds to do the same.
I was like,
she is a flopper. Yeah, she flops right. all the time.
Right.
So we need to rip the Band-Aid off and be able to have these conversations. But I fear that sometimes people don't have these conversations, honestly, because they don't want to be, in her case in particular, be called a racist, be called someone who's anti the league or anti white women playing basketball with black women, whatever it may be, whatever trope that's out there. But this is the reality of Caitlin Clark. So I'm going to talk about her in a way that I feel is fair and true, and that lives up to what I think is what I've been able to witness. And this is just my personal opinion. There is no complaints. Her walking out with Morgan Wallen was one of many walkouts that he did. You and I went down a list. Peyton Manning, Marshawn Lynch, Nick Saban, the hockey player, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
I think it's Connor McDavid, the hockey player. I do believe, like, there was no outrage when those men walked out. So why is there so much outrage with Caitlin Clark? Why are people saying you're walking with a known racist? This is not smart. You shouldn't have done it. And then there's a group of people who just said, oh, she did the walkout, because people who covered it like, oh, she's just one of many athletes who did the walkout, left it as is. There wasn't an outrage. There wasn't any outrage attached to it. But then there are those saying like, this was a mistake. Why would you do that? You're in a league built with so many Black women. Over 70% of Black women are playing basketball. These are your teammates. You know, this man had used the N-word several times. This feels not right. He walked out with Theo Vaughn too. I want to put that in there. I forgot I saw that on the list of people he's walking out with. And
everybody's like, that fits.
Yeah, that's on brand. And so everyone has an issue with her walking out with him. But I was like, well, where was this outrage when Marshawn Lynch did it, when Patrick Mahomes did it, when Travis Kelce did it, when the list goes on? I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not trying to defend her. But what I am saying is that, is there something about her, like you said, she's reached this height of everyone has something to say. When you are the face of the league, and she is arguably the face of the league, 1A, 1B with Asia. I mean, because honestly, everyone's going to talk about Asia being the best player. But the face, you talk about Caitlin Clark because everyone knows Caitlin Clark. That was our litmess test. You could talk to your grandmother.
She passes the grandmother test.
Yep. Yes.
She passes the grandmother test.
And I sit here and I go, well, listen, if they can do it and there's no outrage, why are we so upset why are we being so precious with the W when we still want to be treated the same and we want to be covered the same and we want to be afforded the same opportunities? Why are we so precious? I ask you that, Jemele. Why are we being so precious about Caitlin Clark walking out with someone when several other athletes had set the precedent to do the same?
So I look at where the outrage and the raised eyebrows and the side-eyeing is coming from. And let's just be honest. This is representative of something larger that is really inescapable in this country during this political time. When it comes to someone like Caitlin Clark, and especially in the league she's in, that's 70% Black, that is, a third of the league is queer. People are in a time where we don't know who to trust. And the one thing, among the many things that Donald Trump exposed, is that his presidency, there was a lot of people that people thought were allies or people thought they don't think that way. And he exposed they did, in fact, think that way. And naturally, I think when it comes to white women positioned in this space that is dominated by Black women, there is going to be a level of distrust that's there. And so she is experiencing this in real time, and we're seeing this play out because, frankly, most of the people asking the questions about why is she walking out with Morgan Wallen were Black, and understandably so, considering his history. And let me just add this for context, and I'm not saying that this means that he's an ally or whatever, or, I'm not trying to excuse his behavior, but it just gives more context, is that, yes, Morgan Wallen did apologize for using the N-word. He also donated $500,000, I believe, to the National African American History Museum. He met with Black leaders. He did all the things. We went to rehab. He did all the things. And when one is trying to make amends. Whether or not you forgive him, I don't care, because I don't even know enough about Morgan Wallen to even be that invested in whatever his atonement is. So people can take that for what it's worth, but I'm just going to throw that out there just for further context for this conversation. What I have a big problem with in the Caitlin Clark sort of criticism is we have this really bad habit of expecting more from women, expecting more from Black women when it comes to these type of choices. We can go back to Chile, right? And is that we had a whole community dialogue about Chili and calling her out because she's clearly MAGA or at least MAGA adjacent. So everybody just crushed Chili. Meanwhile, we know of other male celebrities, 50 Cent. Let me just throw that one out there. We know of other male celebrities who are clearly Trump supporters or Trump adjacent who do not get the same smoke. So this is once again back to this uneven responsibility that women carry. And so all of this weight is being shifted onto Caitlin Clark in real time. I don't really care that she walks out with Morgan Wallen. I'm going to be honest. Like she's also 23, 24 years old, and expecting her to be solving race relations and doing all this is just probably expecting too much. I'm sure she looked at it as, this guy's the biggest star in country music. He asked me to walk out. I'm walking out. And as I mentioned in our previous podcast, whether or not people consider it equal or a fair equivalence, but nobody also said anything or will say anything about some of the WNBA players who went to Chris Brown concerts. So if people don't want to get into this entertainment policing game, I promise y'all don't want to do this, because nobody is going to stand up to the scrutiny. Nobody is going to stand up to the hypocrisy meter. Everybody is a hypocrite. And when we accept that, it makes it easier to me to have this conversation. And so I don't want to feel like I'm defending Caitlin Clark out of some kind of loyalty. I don't even know Caitlin Clark, all right? But to me, I like to try to call balls and strikes. And it feels unfair to me that she is facing all this criticism for this when you just mentioned a bunch of male superstars who did the same thing, some of which are black, and not just black, but blackity black, black, black.
Yeah, we're not questioning whether or not Marshawn
Lynch, we're not questioning his blackness because he walked out with Morgan Wallen. And that's like one of the blackest fucking people I know, okay?
Yeah.
Black culturally, black in...
But we don't even know how he voted. We don't even know how he voted.
No, we can assume,
but we don't, and we don't even bring that conversation into it. Here's my point, because you brought up 50 Cent you've brought up 50 Cent being a Trump supporter. I don't think any of us rock with 50. But you're right. He doesn't receive the same heat, or he didn't receive the same heat that Chili.
Either. People still watching that Power Universe nonstop. He does not. He ain't lost a check yet. All right. We just saw Kanye West, who just basically cosplayed as a Nazi for a few years. He sold out every night at SoFi. So trust me, again, when we start entertainment policing, people are going to look stupider than they want.
Yeah. The uneven responsibility that I think women have, because they are expected to be better and the bar is lower for our male counterparts, is unfair. And we have this conversation. I do not want to get into a gender war. I am definitely not defending Caitlin. I do believe that this gave people an excuse to be like, and that's why I don't like her. It's okay to say, I don't like her personality on the court. I don't like the way she was ignored the coach and dismissed her coach last year while she was sitting on the bench with Sophie. I don't like her and Sophie together. It's okay for people to say those things. I don't know if we have any hard evidence to be like, and she's a racist. And because she walked out with him, she's a racist. Look, if it looked like a duck, yeah, I know. And if it quacked, like, that's what they say. I don't know that. I know that she has defended Black women before in the past, and she had said that one of her favorite players is Maya Moore. I know that she has stood up and when she first was asked to talk about this issue, and she said, in terms of Black women defining the W, she said, yes, I do believe they have. You talked about that interview she did with Maria Taylor. I think that she has said the right things that she has wanted to say. Whether she stands up and the argument is disavow racism and say, I do not like racist people following me. Listen, she could do whatever the hell she wants to do. But I believe her not saying anything doesn't in this case mean she is saying something. I believe she said enough in terms of her defense of Black women to believe that she's trying to be on the right side of history. And look, maybe she'll come out one day and be like, look, I don't want to offend any of my fans. The reason why I think she's not talking is because she just doesn't want to get into it, because she's not going to win it. She's not going to win that battle.
That's it. If she does
say something, she's definitely this, that, and the other. And if she doesn't say something, okay, she's a racist. She's not going to win. There are too many people with their ring lights and opinions to decide whether or not she's right or wrong. She's not going to be able to please everyone, and that's just what it is. LeBron learned that lesson early on, and he just was like, He started to make fun of it while it annoyed him because everyone was on his head and taking every one of his tweets so very personally. You see how he tweeted? He tweeted this. You're gonna blend in or you're gonna blend out. Remember, he would subtweet and everyone would be so mad at him. And at the end of the day, he was like, never mind. Let me just shut up. Like, I'll do whatever it doesn't matter. It will be a thought. Let me shut my mouth. And maybe that's the advice, because I know they're friendly. I know that's the advice he may have given her. Like, you're not gonna win it. Just tap out of it altogether and do what makes you feel right. Do what you want to do. Listen, she liked Taylor Swift's post when Taylor decided to support Kamala, and she lost thousands of followers. And I'm like, gosh, we have a short memory. You guys are like, now she's a racist. I am not defending her. What I'm saying is she's damned if she do, damned if she doesn't. I would rather us just be like, I don't like her personality. You don't have to find a reason. You can just say it. Well, I don't like Dylan Brooks. He's a troll. I go down the list of people
but Dylan Brooks
can say that.
You a lot of evidence.
But he's giving me a lot of evidence that he's a troll. Yeah. My point being is that we have no problem in this uneven balance that you talk about, criticizing our male superheroes. People used to say all this stuff about Kobe, and I'm like, he seems like a wonderful man to me. You know, they had all these thoughts, and I'm like, seems perfect to me. And he's a jerk. He's not. And I'm like, perfect to me. It's okay to say, I don't like her if you just don't like her, or you prefer Angel over her, or you hate how the world treated Angel because of her. You can have your reasons. You really, truly can. And you can also say, I'm not moving on. The way that Don Staley asked us to move on from Gino Auriemma, I was like, you move on, Don. We ain't moving on. You move on, Don. You go ahead and post whatever you want to post about moving on. We still here. We camped out on Gino's lawn. We got something to say.
Well, we also have to acknowledge the wounds we're bringing to the table when we have these kind of discussions, or when people are investigating themselves for why they may feel a certain way about this person. A lot of those reasons that people don't like Caitlin Clark are rooted in things she can't really control
at all.
And I know that some of this started because the way they positioned her, or the way she was positioned in media with all the attention, people felt like it was erasing the legacy of a lot of the Black women's players who had come before, who had been dynamite, who just didn't get the same amount of attention. And that in itself became a reason to dislike her. Like, oh, so you brought her in and you're giving her the credit for being the greatest in the women's game ever in history, and giving her all these superlatives. And because Black women deal with erasure constantly.
That's correct. That's what you're forgetting that.
That triggered something, right? And then you bring in the element of Angel Reese, when you had very vocal media personalities saying things about Angel Reese that were disrespectful, racist, all because she beat the person that
she disrupted the narrative.
She disrupted the narrative, like plain and simple. And I wish some of the people who felt that way would just own it. Like, you wanted this girl to win and she didn't, and you haven't let it go.
I'm going to tell you. When my coach beat Don in the championship, y'all was mad. I'm not talking about you, but they were mad because my coach disrupted the narrative, and they were like, and I noticed how all the white girls are going on Jimmy Kimmel and doing it. I'm like, save it. Or whatever. I just like, save it. Like, y'all can't do this. And because Don came out and even said she's a good person, there was nowhere for all that ire and trauma to go. And what I mean by that is that we got to be honest when we're having these conversations. Like, white women have done us dirty in the past, and we carry that stuff around with us. And so when we feel that feeling of erasure, as you talked about, sometimes it informs our decisions and our critiques and our analysis and how we move in the world. And I understand that is a normal human reaction. In this particular case, and I'm like, as I pointed out, I'm not a fan of her personality, but that doesn't mean I can't be honest and say, yeah, no, I can't get mad at her for walking out with old boy. If there was no outrage when he's been doing this, and there's a history of him doing this, I can say that I don't like her personality on the court and perhaps off the court. I can say that, but I can't get into whether or not she's a racist because I don't know that. And I don't feel like it's fair to say that. What I do know is that we should be allowed to critique these women the way that we critique other athletes. And if we keep stepping around it and not saying that quiet part out loud, we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we're coddling them, and we are adding to a narrative of they can't handle it, and they need to be able to. I saw Teaspoon the other day post, the way you guys critique these women is disgusting. The way you fans are the worst. I hate the way you guys are talking about these women. And I'm all like, go talk to a man. Jump in LeBron's DMs. Go. When he burning jerseys in a whole city, like he was the most hated athlete ever for deciding to leave Cleveland and go to Miami. Well, we'll debate all over whether or not he did it the right way or the wrong way. The reality is, you're talking about somebody who knows some hate. These men have been dealing with that consistently. It's just a part of it. Do you remember how Russell Westbrook was like, this guy right here called me an N-word. This guy sitting right here on courtside called me an N-word. Pointed him out. Can you remove him? And I'm like, these women are in that space now. With more attention comes more responsibility and new fans and new ire and new love. And this is what this is. And we have to start talking about it very honestly. I could care less that she walked out with Morgan.
I don't care either. But let me throw this at you, because this has come up. I found myself in the middle of a controversy. I know that's shocking. That never happens to me.
Are you saying somebody's mad at you? Are you trending? Someone thinks you're a racist?
This time not for being a racist, but you mentioned the fans and how the women's basketball fans in particular, and women's sports fans is... So one of, I think he's an ESPN writer. He's a journalist. I just can't remember his name. So he tweeted out that, and I didn't realize this, but the WNBA actually changed their locker room policy. So when I was covering the W the first few years, and for a long time, the W's locker room policy was the same as the NBA's. And that is, after the game, it's a 10-minute cooling off period. Reporters get to go in, access the locker room for 45 minutes. This gives you an opportunity to talk to all the players, talk to everybody, blah, 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 blah. Now, when you're covering the men, won't lie, sometimes they're in various states of undress, but typically what we would do if an athlete was coming out of the shower, like we're not allowed in the shower. We're just generally where their lockers are.
I hope not. Stank.
No. It's only certain areas where we're allowed.
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I know. And so a lot of times what would happen when I was in the locker room is if a guy came out, he was in a towel, reporters would literally turn their backs while they were at his locker or wait when he was at his locker to let him get himself together. Some athletes didn't care. Like, there's plenty of athletes that would just sit there with a towel on or just
We've seen it.
Yeah, they don't really care. So at any rate, the W changed their policy at the request of the players so that now it's different. You can't, there's no locker room access, after the game, blah, 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 blah. And people were like, oh yeah, this is taking care of the players. But this reporter was complaining about that and saying like, hey, because I know for people out there who are listening, they're like, why would you need to be in the locker room? Well, the reason is it actually does help you build rapport with players, and you want to talk to the entire team, and it cuts down on the gatekeeping. Because if I go to the PR staff and say, hey, I want to talk to AZ Fudd, they're going to want to, they immediately going to ask, well, what's this about? Blah, blah, blah. And they're going to start gatekeeping the interaction. It's like, nah, you don't want that. And the locker room is your opportunity that if you're working on other stories, other features, you can have access to the players. It's not the only access you get, but that's generally the importance of the locker room access. Anyway, this reporter was railing against that, and I jumped in. I said, well, it should be the same as the men's. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what was the reason? And next thing you know, it's like a bunch of women's fans jumped in, and they were like, well, this is creepy that a man would want access. And they didn't understand the history. Decades ago, women reporters fought to have equal access to the locker room.
There's a whole documentary on it.
It's a whole documentary about it. And the reason we did it is because the men were getting an advantage of being able to go into the locker room just by virtue of the fact that they were men. Because those same players, they would get to talk to the whole team. And trust me, as you know, when players can avoid the media, they will do it every time. So they weren't even getting access to the same players. So they had to fight the right to be in there, which a lot of these fans don't know. And one of the things that kind of came up in this evolving conversation on social media, on Twitter, was it was a few fans that said this. Well, we don't want to be covered just like the men. We want to be covered differently with respect to the nuance of the game and our gender. So to getting back to what we're discussing here, when you said you should be able to talk about male athletes the same way you do female athletes, a lot of the female fans and the women's sports fans don't actually want that.
What do they want? What are they asking for? Why do they want to be covered differently? Tell me what would be different besides putting the ball in the mother fudging hole. What else do they want?
Because, and I don't know if this is fair or not, but I'll present the counter argument. The counter argument is that because of the historic issues that women have faced in terms of coverage, in terms of how we're seeing the misogyny, all those things we deal with as we walk through life as women, and especially as Black women, that kind of consideration and care needs to be taken into how we cover them. To say that we should be more sensitive to their issues as opposed to men who have frankly always been in the dominant power position in sports. I don't know.
I'm lost. Help me. And what I'm asking, and these are legitimate questions, I'm not trying to cut you off. I don't understand what you mean. So do you mean that we should, they are asking for, and I'm not involved in said controversy. Let me adjust my mic. I'm not involved in said controversy, but are you saying that as a Black a basketball player and a woman, I need to be covered differently? I need to be aware of the history of being a Black woman in a league that was ignored for so long, and now that it's. I mean, if you need context, I can give you context, but what does that have to do with you going in the locker room? Let them get dressed. I believe in that. Yeah, let them be.
That's fine.
Covered, you know what I mean? You shouldn't be walking in the locker room and you got your bra and your panties on. I get it. There could be all things happening with women. We know what.
And by the way, in my entire time coming to W, I never saw a woman naked in there, or even like most of the players. Frankly, they just waited at their lockers and they had their uniform on. We interviewed them and we were gone. That was their choice to do. I understand why they did it. And some would say, why is any reporter on men or women in the locker room? Fair question too. I understand that, but it gets back to a bigger issue beyond the locker room, is that I think the expectation from a lot of women's sports fans, and especially as it relates to the W and women's college basketball, they do feel like the players should be covered differently. It's the whole reason.
I don't know what you mean by that, though.
Okay, so like for the AZ Fudd situation with Paige Beckers, right? When that reporter asked the most benign question in the world, which I thought was a legitimate question, many of the fans said that is not a legitimate question. Stay out their personal business. How dare you? And many of them came at me when I said.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't personal, and that's not up for debate. That wasn't a personal question.
But that's not how they see it. That was
a colleague question. Yeah, I know, and that's fine. But like, how many of us are working with our boyfriend or girlfriend? It just doesn't work that way. If there were out players in the NBA right now on the same team, we would be asking, how does this dynamic work? That's why it becomes a conversation. It has to become a conversation. And I think right now, because we're so sensitive about it, and I even say, I saw all those people with these think pieces about why that question was out of bounds. I was in and out. I'm not listening to that. That's ridiculous. That question to me was not inappropriate. It was a fair question. And no one, you have to understand, no one is going to ask Dejanay, is she's dating Jackie, and did she cheat on old girl? Like, no one's going to be like, we're not going to get into that. That's a
TMZ question.
That's a TMZ question about who you dating and who you date now. We know of these relationships. There's many relationships that are happening. But once you make it public, whoever made it public, whether it was Paige or whether it was AZ, that becomes a conversation. I go back to how Sue and Meg handled their breakup. They announced it. They knew they had a working relationship. So it had to become information for people to listen to. So it became a part of the news cycle, and they knew it was going to be a part of the news cycle because they worked together. They couldn't just break up and the podcast go away, or they couldn't just stop doing public speaking engagements as they had been in the past as a couple and with the podcast. So they knew that this was a part of a storyline that people had been covering. And so that's why they made it. They didn't ask for any privilege, any special coverage. They didn't say you should handle us differently because we are together. They didn't do any of that. They got in and out. And that has to be, to me, two things are happening there. The level of maturity that they have, right? In terms of being in this business for a long time and understanding what it feels like to be on a world stage. And what happened in Dallas, to me, was a one-off. AZ is a baby. Like, I say what you want. She's still very young. So is Paige. Paige handled it well, but you could tell this is all new for them. They were unfamiliar with this. And so there were people and their fans who jumped to protect them because they felt the uneasiness that they have. But this isn't a question about being a woman. It's about the lack of maturity and the lack of experience and the lack of reps being in this situation. That's all that was to me. I don't know what covering them differently would feel like.
Well, I think that what it is, and this is, a big reason we started this podcast is to be able to have honest conversations about women in sports. not necessarily to duplicate exactly how we talk about men, but just to be honest. The issue is that I think for a long time, the journalists, not every journalist, but a lot of the journalists that covered women's sports and covered the league, the fans saw the journalists as a we and not a they. And now they're confused because they're just like, wait a minute, y'all are asking, because there's more people covering the league now, is under more scrutiny. And they have had the expectation that the journalists are supposed to be extensions of the teams, and the journalists are not supposed to be that. And unfortunately, because of how everything is covered in this country, from politically to how politics is covered, big example is that people can't even recognize what journalists are supposed to do because, as you have brought up, they don't know the difference between a journalist, an influencer. They don't know the difference. The lines are all blurred to them. And so they expect our jobs to be to support the women. And while the support is, to me, in the fact that we have built an entire podcast around discussing women's sports and all the culture and the issues and all the things that come with it, but they expect the journalists to be cheerleaders. They just do. And
I don't know about
when that doesn't happen, they are like, a lot of people on social media were calling me weird because I was like, no, the locker room policy should be the same as it is for the men's. Like that is, and it's not just germane to the NBA. This is how it works in Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League, literally every major sport. This is how it works.
You know what? Like, you got to stop fighting the ocean. You really do. Because
especially
the internet
when I know they don't understand.
When they don't understand, there's just no point in you trying to explain this to a world of people who have no understanding. You are a legend in the business. You move in a way in which is fair and honest and true. You're not a influencer. You're well respected among your colleagues and even athletes. So those who don't like you, so I wouldn't even try to explain this to the masses who have no clue what they're talking about. But to your point, they can't tell the difference, and that's the world that we're living in. And to that very same idea of how we move, I think every industry is experiencing that because we are in a show-all industry. Not only am I showing you my food, I'm showing you when I wake up, when I go to sleep, when I use the bathroom, when I cut my hair, when I make it not. As everything is not for everybody. Everything is not for everyone's consumption. We got to talk about this roast. People are so upset about the Kevin Hart roast.
My God,
this is the other thing to me. Like, everyone's furious. And there are comedians, for instance, Cheryl Underwood was on Don Lemon's show just yesterday saying it was all good. We had fun. I know I said some things that were intense, but we're comedians. And as a comic, this is what there are things that they do I could not possibly understand. I say that to say there are things that we do as journalists, as people with a platform, that those who are influencers could not understand. They wouldn't understand why we operate that way, especially as of late, especially this new breed, these new fans. And I'm not just putting in the new world, but there are things that, and even athletes who turn into analysts don't live by the same rules that we live by, even though they have a huge platform. They don't move the way we move. We just couldn't understand it. I didn't understand what these comedians were doing. I felt like when I'm thinking about Kevin roast and how Kevin Hart and how everyone's upset at him, all I thought while I was watching it was that this is uncomfortable. And I feel like this is not the time. I feel like we are very polarized in this country. And if you got these comedians, Tony Hinchcliffe, how do you say his name?
Oh, Hinchcliffe. Yeah. I remember him from the Trump rally.
When I saw him from the Trump rally, who made that disgusting joke about Puerto Rico, in my mind, I was like, why is he on this stage?
Why is he even here? Exactly.
And why is he, like, this is so polarizing because comedy, yes, is universal. But in this moment, I don't know if we can separate the art from the artist. When the art says Puerto Rico is a trash place or whatever words he used, which I thought was disgusting. And
I think he called the country, I think he called them garbage. Or the territory, not the country, but I think he called them garbage.
A floating
island of trash. That's what he called them.
Yeah. And I feel like, it's just, I in my mind, I'm like, oh, we're not ready for this. We are currently in the process of trying to find ourselves in a world that is increasingly removing civil rights for Black people, and a world that is increasingly literally marginalizing the marginalized already. You know what I mean? Like, I can't see the difference between, I don't know why he's here. I don't know if it's a joke or if we're supposed to be laughing at what he's saying. Is there some truth? Yes, because I do believe there's some truth in everything he said, but those jokes were so polarizing, and they were being performed by white comedians, and they were saying them about Black people, Black women more specifically. And I just was like, I don't know if I find this funny. It feels too true. It feels like you might really believe this. And in fact, isn't there that saying that there's some truth in every bit of humor?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how I feel about this. And I felt like Kevin Hart did that deliberately. He really did.
So there were a couple things about it that struck me. And let's just get to the source, the root tension from the start. I never expected, especially when you look at the trajectory of Kevin Hart's career, that he would be polarizing in our community. There are a lot of us who do not like Kevin Hart. Now, and I don't put myself in that category.
Yeah, I don't dislike him at all.
I don't dislike him at all. I think he's got an incredible success story. What he's built with his homies, it's kind of reminiscent of what LeBron did, in many respects. So, and you remember this from our days at ESPN, the two most, in my entire time there, the two most well-liked celebrity, ironically enough, were Kevin Hart and The Rock. And the reason why they were the most liked, when they did the car washes, they remembered everybody's name. They were the most polite. They never big-timed anybody. The way that they treated people, from the makeup artist to the janitor to the anchors, was exactly good people. Was exactly
The Rock is my guy to this day. He is my boo.
Incredible person, right?
Huge.
And so that's that part of it. So I got a lot of respect for Kevin Hart. And I get it. You can't always gauge people by how you're treated, especially if people consider you famous. I understand that. But I have seen him in action, and he's a good dude. And so, but then there became this turn, and this happens with a lot of success, much as it did with LeBron and Caitlin Clark. When you have a lot of success, people start nitpicking. And especially if you're Black and if you're a woman, and there is this rap on him that he's not as funny as it used to be, that now his comedy and his movies only cater to white audiences, that he done forgot about the Black folks, that he's facing all of that. So that's just the opinion of Kevin Hart before this roast even started. So then you give the optic of it's your roast, and during a sensitive time, you have white comedians joking about Black people in a way that during this time, let's just keep it 1,000, given the nation that we're in, the administration we're under, of who we know voted for who. Black people don't trust white people. Simple as that.
Our trauma is up, and we are here.
We ain't a hell. We ain't he helling nothing.
We ain't he helling nothing. We want a hug.
We don't want to hear that. We don't want to
hear that. We don't want to hear that.
We don't want all that jokey joke.
You joke in your private time in your crib. Especially to your audience, to your fans. You do.
Exactly.
Don't come here with that shit. Go on.
Right. And so, one of the most uncomfortable parts was it? I don't know if it was Pete Davidson.
There are so many uncomfortable parts, friend. Many uncomfortable parts. So I watched it live. Our friend Tommy.
Oh, you watched it live? Okay.
I watched it live. I'm sure they cut some things out. My really good friend, our mutual friend Tommy, went. She was texting me during it live, and I was like, Tommy, are they laughing? Because I'm at home uncomfortable. She was like, the room is laughing because the room is filled with people in the business, and they get the point of a roast. She was like, there are some uncomfortable moments when, if people bomb or fall flat, but she was like, people are laughing. And I think at the end of the day, to me, there was a lot of truth in some of these jokes. That's to my point. And here, let me tell you, Buffy puts in, many a true word is spoken in jest, which is true. Thanks, Buff. The reality is this, though. I'm not even kidding you. All of those jokes were uncomfortable, but she tells me, and she's in the business, the room received it well. To your point, feel like that should not have been televised. That they should have cleaned up some.
I don't think these roasts should be televised because I think most people watching at home, it's a different experience. And I say this as somebody who has been a part of 2 roasts. Like when Guy Torry had a roast for his 50th birthday, and people have to understand this is what happens, is that they write the jokes for you and you approve, don't approve. The host, the person getting roasted often approves or whatever. It is a process. They wrote some jokes for me. I said them. It was great. But before, I don't know if it was before I took the stage or after, at this point, I'm not with ESPN and everybody knows the story with that there. And one of them joked, and I don't remember who it was, that I had been fired from more places than whatever. Now, I ain't never been fired in my life. I think they said it before me. And then when I got up there, I said, I was like, something like, I forget what the quip that I said was, but it was funny and well received. I was like, but I ain't missed no checks though. So it's something I said, I don't remember what it was, but this is the way it goes. And then as you recall, for my husband's birthday, he wanted a roast. So I gave him a roast for his 41st birthday, but that's among friends. And we had a whole Zoom, blah, blah, blah. And this is how it goes. I don't have a problem with people roasting the people who are there because that's what you're kind of supposed to do. The reason why that Tony Hinchcliffe joke about George Floyd landed so poorly, because I literally gasped when I heard that. I was like, wait, George Floyd ain't got shit to do with anything happening at the Kevin Hart roast.
He deserved to be punched in the mouth. Like, that was disgusting. That was disgusting.
That was a disgusting joke.
It wasn't funny.
It wasn't funny. Nothing to do with Kevin Hart. It's like you had that joke saved in drafts and you just wanted to get a joke off about Black folks, period. And so that was egregious. And the other part that made me uncomfortable too is, again, I don't remember who it was. I feel like it was Pete Davidson, but maybe it's him. But somebody was making a joke, made a series of jokes about Cheryl Underwood's skin tone. Telling jokes about her being dark. A bunch of them did
it. Shane did it.
Yes.
A bunch of them did it.
A bunch of them did it. And I'm going to be honest, I don't like that shit.
I didn't like it either. And she listen, she got her get back. She got her lick back. She got up there and she talked to Shane and she said, she can handle herself fine. She said, Shane, I'm glad, because you could tell there were jokes in the prompter that were inappropriate. And one of them had a wigger. And that was what Shane was supposed to say. And Shane was like, I'm not saying that. Keep going. And she got up there and she was like, I'm glad you knew better. She was like, if I heard anything like wigger, bigger, trigger, anything that sound like the N-word, we're gonna jump you. And it was well received. And I also felt like Chelsea Handler was well received because she had a personal ire for Tony Hinchcliffe, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And she was going in on him and none of it felt like jokes.
It felt like she just was like, oh, I got some shit for you.
She was just like, I've been waiting this moment because I know you and I think you're gross. And they kept calling her, talking about how many people she slept with and she's this, that, and the third. And I was just like, okay, that's fine. That's all a part of it. We get it. But to your point, I'm not a comedian. We have a lot of friends that are comedians that I've seen on social defending this, saying it was just jokes, people. That's what you do. I do believe there are 2 things that I noticed. One, it probably should have been edited and or just for that room. I don't think these need to be televised. And like, even
you don't think they need to be live? Is that what you mean?
Maybe. I don't know. And they're like, and they were like, oh, somebody said, oh, to make it as racist as possible. I don't know if that was Kevin's, like his LOL, because he was like, say it. He was encouraging everyone. He didn't look to be offended by anybody. Even The Rock was talking about his wife and talking about, hey, you want to meet me in your room? Like, I was like, okay. He's talking about joking about
his
with
dad
somebody.
Leaving him. I'm like,
and they had his dad's mug shot up there. So
I know.
You have to realize this was the environment. This was encouraged. If they are not offended, I don't know why, but I'm offended. I know Kevin's not offended, but I am offended. And that's why I felt like that type of humor, that particular roast should have been for a select few. Like, I don't know if everybody can handle that. Everyone's sensibilities can't handle that. And it's getting a lot of criticism. And I don't hate Kevin Hart in any form or fashion. I think he knew what he was doing. I think he encouraged it. But I did notice something. So I'm going to get a little messy here.
Ooh, get messy. Let's do it.
So by way of background, Netflix is a Joke is a 2-week, if not maybe a little more, experience that happens across Los Angeles once a year, and different comedians perform in different locations, and there are all these different events, and the culmination, I'm assuming, is Kevin Hart's roast. And last year was a Tom Brady roast. I think this is the culmination. I think they added it on to this year's event. my point being is that I had an opportunity to go see Cat Williams, and I told you that. That was a part of the Netflix is a joke. When Cat walked on that stage and said they paid him enough to be there, I thought it was very interesting. He said even though he and Kevin both joked, which is probably the truth, they probably still don't like each other. But days before, there were these photos circulating online, and a room gathered, I don't know if it was a picnic, a brunch, whatever. Some of the biggest comedians in the world, if not the GOATs, were all there. There was a picture of Chris Rock, David Letterman, Dave Chappelle, Eddie Murphy, and I think Kevin was in one of the photos. But Jerry Seinfeld, Adam Sandler, the biggest names in like the Mount Rushmore of comedians, if you will, they were all there. I found it very interesting. Not one of them attended that roast. And the reason why I find it interesting, they were all in Hollywood for Netflix is a joke. Go look at those photos. You've seen them. People are like, can you believe it? I think that they knew what the environment would have been, and it's a no-win situation. I remember Jerry Seinfeld saying he does not find any humor in the N-word, nor does he seek to find humor in the N-word. And he was saying it while he was sitting with Chris Rock.
I remember this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, I think it was Bill Burr. Was that the other comedian that was on there with him? The three of them. Do you remember the third comedian at all?
I don't remember if it was Bill Burr, but I do remember Chris Rock was there. Yeah.
Chris Rock was there, another comedian, two other comedians, and Jerry Seinfeld, and they were all laughing. They were saying an N-word joke, and Jerry was like sitting there looking at him, and he was like, I don't find the humor in that word, nor do I seek to find the humor in that word. I say that to say, if those legends didn't come and participate in the roast, or maybe they don't do roast, or maybe they just stop doing roast, I think they understand there's no win in that. There is no upside in that, depending on what is being said on that stage and how it's going to be taken, received, put out in the world, what their fan base likes, if they want to be subjected to that, if they want to be roasted, because they were roasting everybody. Every comedian got up there and had an opportunity to roast everybody, and I'd probably be one of them. Like, no, I don't need you talking about me and my family. I'm all set.
Y'all don't be bringing my trauma is not a joke. Okay,
I'm all set, and
I'm good.
I found it very interesting that all the comedians, including Kat, said, this guy's supposed to, and he said it like it was a joke. He's like, this guy's supposed to be a GOAT, but apparently I couldn't get nobody here better than me. Like you guys couldn't get nobody. The Rock was huge, obviously. That's a huge name to get. But I noticed how these GOATs did not show up for this roast, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is quite an observation, because when the George Floyd joke is dropped, the first thing that people are pointing out is who is laughing. And sure enough, everybody's looking at Kevin Hart's reaction. And this is why right now he's getting criticized on the internet and saying, and this is out to millions of people across the world. It's like they make a joke like that about your own community, and you the one laughing the hardest. And that's probably why those legends didn't show up, because they don't want to be caught in that position.
It's just a no-win.
It's a no-win of having to defend. Why are you laughing at this when there is the community that built you and brought you to this point, and this is one of the most traumatic things that we've experienced, and here you go laughing it up. Hell, I was uncomfortable. I don't know. I didn't know anything about Cheryl Underwood's personal life. The suicide joke about her husband, I was like, wait, what? I'm sorry, what are we doing?
They all know that, though. They all know going up there. Even Cheryl, who was on Don Lemon's show along with Chelsea.
She said she was fine with it.
She was like, everybody, they get it. That's the nature of what a roast is.
Right.
I do want to make a quick note. It was Louis C.K. and Ricky Gervais that were with Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock.
That's what it was. Okay.
And the show was called Talking Funny. Thank you. Coscarelli gave me that information. I do want to say, and that's when Jerry said the most profound thing I've ever heard the man say. I don't find the humor in that word, nor do I seek to find the humor. And it just silenced everybody. They sobered up. Wasn't kikiing then. They just were like, okay. And to my point, the reason why those other, you're agreeing with me, these legends, they all know everybody got a ring light and an opinion. It's no need. Not in today's age. There's just no need. This is not the same. What's the point? That stuff lives in infamy as we talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's tough, in that environment. Because, like, I was also looking at Regina Hall. I feel like she ain't laughed one time. She was just up there like, yeah.
Because she probably didn't want to be up there with that nonsense.
Some of it was very funny though, Cari.
A lot of it was funny. A lot of it was offensive. Whatever they were trying to do, they reached everyone. If they wanted a menu of jokes and they wanted it to be slightly offensive to really offensive to hella funny to not so funny, they were able to do so. They accomplished, mission accomplished. I believe Kevin knew what he was doing. I don't dislike him. I am not a comedian. I do not understand that world because I see so many comedians saying, you don't get it. You don't get it. The same way that we talked about earlier about the analysts and reporters and the influencers. You got up there and made a really good point about, they should be treated the same in the locker room, and they jumped down your throat because they're not journalists, and they haven't covered the league the way in which you had covered the league. I mean, we just got to know when to say that's not my lane and I don't know, but I was offended and uncomfortable.
Yeah,
but that's not my lane. I don't know. Two things can be true.
That's not my lane. I remember he's asked me a few times, like, you wouldn't want to roast, not even if Jesus was pouring it. No. It's like, I don't want people talking about me in that way. My self-esteem could not take it. And there are
Can you do a show with me every day? Speaking of, let me roast you about tell you about that one time. And let me tell you about your dirty spaghetti ain't shit. Yeah, dirty spaghetti ain't good. It ain't shit. It's trash. You think you can cook and you can't cook.
I was like, well, my family history, my God, a comedian would have a field day talking about the folks in my family. I'm like, nah, I ain't got it in me like that. Now, I can roast to a certain degree, and I have roasted some of the best in the neighborhood and folk in my family, but that's only going so far. And for people to act like Black people have a great sense of humor. We laugh at our pain all the time.
Remember when you told me I didn't have no booty? I just had a line straight up and down my back.
Oh, I said you had a back with a crack.
He said I had a back with a crack. I was like, my booty is big. Don't worry. You swear you were right here with a BBL. Like, your booty is. Yeah, but why you making fun of my butt? Like, it's not like you sitting on something. You ain't sitting on nothing.
Look, I got a little poke out.
You ain't got
disrespect it.
You have a little poke out. You have zero. I got more poke out than you.
I don't believe this. I don't believe this at all. Okay. We're going to have a poke out contest. I feel like mine is, I got a little more definition there. That's just a little.
Yes, I'm poking it out right now. Stand up and turn around, they say. Show the booty. Show the booty.
Buffy. You know what? Like, right. Back it up.
You know what? My hope is, honestly, on this show, I don't want to be yelling into a microphone and complaining. I do want us to have nuanced conversation, and I hope we can have honest conversation. I hope that's what people come back for. That's, and whether you are at the end of the day able to withstand this test and this onslaught of opinions and microphones and ring lights, that's up to you. But I feel like what we are trying to do and what we are doing is really rooted in journalism and a little bit of fun. Just some homegirls hanging here and having a good time.
Yeah.
And with that being said, Cari's booty is bigger than Jemele's.
America. Ask yourself, do you believe that? Now people going to be searching online, looking for photos of us with our asses and being like, no, it's Cari. No,
here come all the Rossini Vrabel photos of us walking around and our butt just the backside. It's like, well, I didn't know they took a picture of us when we went to go eat. I didn't even know they did this.
Do I got some good booty photos on it? Well, I did. I was naked, as you like to remind people.
Yeah,
so
but you didn't show your booty.
I didn't. I didn't show my booty. I didn't show the poke out. I got to poke out, Cari. You won't disrespect my booty that way. Anywho's, all right. Thank you for another lovely edition of Flagrant and Funny. We will be back on Friday to discuss all the goings on.
All right, Jemele. So are we done? Do we do it?
We are done. We're done. We're not finished, but we done.
That's right. Thank you all for listening to Flagrant and Funny. Talk to y'all later.